Hello and welcome back to the Google Workspace Update podcast from Strawberry 7. My name is Adam.
And my name is Adam.
We're here every week to bring you the latest updates from Google Workspace. This podcast is available from your regular audio podcast provider and also available in video format from our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Strawberry7. Now, just before we get started, I just wanted to let our regular listeners know that we're making a bit of a change to the podcast coming up this year. We're going to be having a little bit of a brief at the start with a summary of all of the updates that we've got coming up before we actually get into the main bulk of it. Hopefully it will make it a little bit easier for you to see and hear what we've got coming up and skip to those time indexes if you want to. But for now, let's get to it.
On with the show.
So before we get started with the updates, Adam and I would just like to wish all of our lovely listeners all around the world a very, very happy new year. I can't believe that we're in another year. We hope that everybody had a lovely, happy holiday, a lovely time seeing all of your friends and family, eating lots of food, and now we're going to get into the first updates of 2023. So happy new year, Adam.
Happy New Year, Adam. Right, so the very first update of 2023, well, I should actually say this is actually the final update of 2022 that Google pushed out. However, it's the first update for 2023 coming from us. So this update is to do with Google Voice. So you can now get enhanced spam protection through automatic labeling of suspected spam calls in Google Voice. So to help protect you from unwanted calls and potential harmful scams, Google Voice shows a suspected spam caller label on all calls that Google believes to be spam. Google makes this determination using the same advanced artificial intelligence that identifies billions of spam calls each month across Google's calling ecosystem. So artificial intelligence continues to take over the world. So the new labels appear on incoming call screen and in the user's call history. Users can either confirm a suspected spam call, which causes future calls from that number to go directly to voicemail and call history entries to be put into the spam folder. They can also mark a labelled call as not spam, after which the suspected spam label is never displayed for that number again.
God, what an incredibly useful feature for anybody out there using Google Voice. This is so useful because it's not just for people, you know, everybody's a bit different within an organisation, aren't they? And it's not just for the people who are maybe technical and very conscious and very aware of these sorts of scams that go on and things like that. It's also for other people in your organisation who might be new to taking in multiple calls throughout the day, or people who might not be as technically savvy, and they will be encountering these scam calls, some of which will be about the typical, oh, hey, I'm calling from Microsoft, there's a problem on your computer, I need you to go here and go there, and before you know it, the scammer's got remote access to your system. So I think this is so useful for an organisation that's using Google Voice because it really helps with those people who maybe aren't used to encountering those types of spams and those types of scams in their day-to-day life. If only BT could do something like this, right, for the poor vulnerable people that are out there who get caught up in these scams and these spams. I mean, just like with phishing emails, they are getting really, really sophisticated these days, aren't they?
Yes, yeah, definitely. I think everybody can just universally agree. Everybody hates spam calls. Everybody hates phishing emails. It's just one of those things. It just annoys absolutely everybody. And so, me, myself, I receive phone calls. I've not actually had one for a little while. Touch wood, I'll probably get 20 next week. And for me, it was always, because they're getting more and more clever, so they try to impersonate a real person. So then you answer the phone, it's like, hi there. Yeah, I'm fine. Are you okay? Oh, I'm really sorry to hear about that accident that you're in. Tell me more about it. And I'm just like, okay, now I know you're a robot, so go away. So then I would then always be in the habit of manually blocking that number, just so then they don't phone me. But then I'll get the exact same call a couple of days later just off a different phone number. So this update from Google is going to be so helpful. If I just had the option just to say, nope, this person is spam, never let them contact me again, then that would definitely be really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that subject, like you're saying about having to block that number, can you imagine if we had no spam filtering on our email and we were having to block every single email manually? It'd be an absolute nightmare. So it's a really, really, really clever feature, that. I mean, I tell you what would be interesting with this. I wonder if Google are going to develop this and then license it to other people, license it to somebody like BT or something like that. That would be an interesting move for Google to make. Google, if you do that and make billions, then, you know, I can take a very, very tiny cut. But yeah, that would be an interesting move if they were to do that, because it's what a lot of these companies do. I mean, I don't know if our listeners out there are familiar with this, but there was a bit of a discussion. I think it was more a conspiracy theory rather than ever proven, but I might be wrong. That Snapchat, for example, you know, it had that sort of filter thing where you could put the dog emoji on yourself and various things like that. The face recognition technology that was using became so advanced because so many people were using it voluntarily because they wanted to turn themselves into an alien or whatever. It gathered so much data on different people's faces in different circumstances and different situations. At one point, weirdly, Snapchat, that software was the most advanced facial recognition software in the whole world. It was more advanced than any government or any military facial recognition software in the world, because it was just used on so many different faces and so many different circumstances. And there was this, I believe it was this kind of conspiracy about the government or governments around the world or military arms around the world actually licensing Snapchat's facial recognition software because it was so advanced, right? Bit of a weird set of circumstances.
That's really interesting, actually. I was never cool enough to be on Snapchat, and now I can see that was just for my own protection.
Exactly, yeah. I'm the same. I'm not cool enough to be on Snapchat. I don't even really understand how it works, but I just leave that for the kids. Cool. Okay, so with this, Adam, sorry, we went a little bit off topic there, listeners, but with this, Adam, how do our listeners get started with this if they want to set this up?
Okay, so for the admins, there's no admin control for this feature, but for their end users, suspected spam labeling appears automatically when the voice spam filter setting is off. So to do that, then you'd go into settings, security, then spam filter. So then you'd have the option to turn it on or off. When spam filtering is on, all calls that Google identifies as spam are automatically sent to voicemail, and the call entry is put into the spam folder.
Ah, I see. That's interesting. So I was getting a little bit confused then when you were saying about when the setting's off, but that makes perfect sense. So when it's off, it just tells you that it thinks it's a spam message, spam call, but when it's on, it actually actively kind of sends it to voicemail.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, great. Okay. And when are we going to start to see that? I think, like you hinted to earlier, this is actually the very, very sort of end update of 2022, isn't it?
So rapid release and scheduled release for this started on December 29th, 2022, so that was last year, so that's been and gone. This is also going to be available to all Google Voice customers only, so it's very much a Google Voice customers update.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just specific to those Google Voice customers. I must look into how Google Voice is charged, actually, because I know it's one of the, I think I said in one of the previous episodes, it's one of the very, very few sort of arms of Google that isn't in Google Workspace. One of the business sort of arms that isn't actually in Google Workspace. It is quite a separate thing, Google Voice, but I don't actually know how that's charged out. I mean, maybe we'll move some of our stuff to Google Voice, but we do actually have a very efficient phone system.
They've been getting a few updates recently, so who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Adam. Well, that's it, everybody. That's everything that you need to know about all of the updates and everything that's happening around Google Workspace. Remember that there's a video version of this podcast available on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/strawberry7, and an audio version of this podcast available from your regular podcast provider. Thank you very much for joining us this week.
We'll be back again next Monday with more updates.
Goodbye.
Bye.